business, once they make a little bit of money, a little bit more money than those around them or those that they grew up with, they start to become very... Today, I want to talk to you guys about some of the pitfalls, the downfalls of an entrepreneur. I've been in the entrepreneurial world since I was about 8 years old, growing up in different businesses, in different gas stations, grocery stores, convenience stores, what have you. And I've been around many, many business owners. And we're going to talk about a couple of the things that made business owners fall, right? What brought them down. And it has to do with religion, believe it or not. Come with me and let's talk about it. Let's get into it. So, we're going to talk about the 7 deadly sins. As Muslims, we also believe the 7 deadly sins are a sin. Same with Christianity and Judaism. And it's very important to kind of understand how you can fall in business as an entrepreneur based on those sins. So we'll talk about the first one that I made a list of would be envy, right? So when you're in business and if you're trying to outdo your competition, for example, and you see what your competition has and you kind of get jealous of them and your mindset is always on them instead of on yourself, that envy can lead to your downfall. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen people in excellent businesses and they started something great and then the competition will creep up behind them. And once that happens, they kind of go blind, right? Their envy won't let them sleep at night. Their envy will eat at them because they keep looking at what's in the other person's hand, right? They're not content with what they have. And that envy will destroy them. So you want to not have that sin because it kind of gives you almost like tunnel vision, but in a bad way, right? Not in a focused way. You're more focused on something else that won't benefit you, right? And that's dangerous. So do not fall for that envy. Second one I want to talk about is pride, right? Arrogance. People in business, once they make a little bit of money, a little bit more money than those around them or those that they grew up with, they start to become very complacent, right? They start to become very arrogant, very prideful, and they start to isolate themselves from others. And once they slip, right, it's easy getting to the top, but staying on the top is kind of hard. Once they slip a little or fall down, that's it. The lions attack, right? They see how they are with money. Money changes people, and they see how arrogant and prideful that person was. So when that person kind of slips and needs help, no one's there for them. That arrogance, that pridefulness destroyed them, right? Because people seen how they were when they had power, and as soon as they had no power, as soon as they had no money, they got destroyed. That pride destroyed them based on their social standings, right? So again, pride is a downfall for an entrepreneur. Next would be wrath. Anger, right? So I've seen people run great businesses, right? Maybe I had a cousin who ran a great business and he had a temper. And every time customers would come in and upset him, he would lash out and go crazy and cuss and yell and try to fight with his customers. And that wrath overtook him, right? Not only was it harmful for his body, but it also kind of had people distance themselves from him, right? They didn't want to have anything to do with this person. And that wrath kind of was a way to control him, believe it or not, because people would kind of poke the bear and they were able to get a reaction out of him based on what they knew triggered him. So those triggers that he made very known to his customers was exploited on a daily basis, where they were able to kind of blind him with his wrath and his anger. And we'd find out that, you know what, once that would happen, he wouldn't be able to focus on what's going on and they'd rob him blind. See, that wrath destroyed him. So being angry, being wrathful, being vengeful, right? That's going to be your downfall. You have to learn how to ignore, learn how to not let things get to you, because what you're doing is you're teaching people your triggers. And then they're going to keep doing that over and over again, exploiting them to control you. Do not be wrathful. Next, sloth, right? People who are lazy, people who don't want to get up and do anything. So with those type of people, they probably have a great idea, a great passion, but they don't act on it. They're too lazy. They're the people that say, we'll do it tomorrow. Everything's tomorrow. Instead of getting up and acting today, they don't want to do anything except chill, relax, kind of lounge in the sun, right? Oh, we're going to do it in the summertime. Summertime comes, oh, by the fall, we should do it. And years go by and they haven't accomplished anything, and you only live once. And they're on this earth just kind of cruising on cruise control, and that makes their life deteriorate. Next thing you know, you're 30. After that, you're 40, 50, 60. You look back and you have regret. The biggest thing when I was working as a nurse in the nursing home that I would see was regret. People would have regret not getting married and having kids, not starting that business, not spending more time with their kids. There was constant regret in the nursing homes. Nobody that I seen really said, I had a great and fruitful life. I'm very content with what I did. A lot of people had regrets, saying that they wished that they fulfilled their dreams. They wished that they were more active, that they were more present. So sloth will have you waste your life away. Try not to be lazy or slothful, right? Next would be greed. So people who had a lot of greed, people who were kind of hungry and like hyper focused on wanting more and more and more, never content with what they had, they would squeeze so tight to the point where what they had in front of them slipped away. And I've seen people lose their families. I've seen family members lose their whole family because they were obsessed with business, obsessed with work, obsessed with making that next dollar, making that next sale, making that next agreement. And their kids grew up, became distant from them, and left their lives. Their wives grew up and said, you know what, this is not the man that I married. This is not the man that I want to be with anymore. And after having so many kids, they would leave them. So many people would be isolated from their family because of their greed. Their greed overtook them in their business, overtook them in their life, and all they can do is focus on the money, right? They were like these little leprechauns, just wanting the money, money, money. Even though they had enough, they still would fight and strive for more than what they needed, and that distanced their family from them. So greed kind of pushed people away from them, and people didn't want to be around that type of person. People didn't want to be around somebody who wasn't generous, right? Somebody who had money and refused to help out because they were so greedy. That greed destroyed that person and made the family isolate from him. Next would be glutton. So gluttonous people, people who constantly eat and overeat and overindulge, but it doesn't have to be with food. It can be overindulging in anything. It can be overindulging in media. It can be overindulging in, extracurricular activities. Maybe you're obsessed with sports and sports will consume your life. Anything that you take an abundance of, it doesn't have to be food, will destroy you, right? It also makes you have tunnel vision in another way, where all you can do is focus on that thing that you want to overindulge in. And I've seen people who would be great business people, right? But when they come home, they would not focus on their family. They would not focus on their business. They would not focus on anything besides what that passion was, whether it was food, whether it was hookah, whether it was cigarettes, whether it was gambling, whether it was whatever, what have you, right? Anything that would they would overindulge in would destroy them. And people would try to do an intervention. It can even be drugs. People would try to do an intervention to try to get them to get out of this, but they're so obsessed with that thing they're indulging in, right? They're gluttonous in it that they would not turn around. And people just distance themselves from them, and those people end up having a crummy life, right? Towards the end of their life. Like I said, I've been in this since I was 8 years old, so almost 30 years, and I'm looking at these people who started off in their business career and they had this gluttonous mentality, gluttonous behavior, and I see where they're at now, and they're lonely. A lot of people have no family. Even though they raised families, even though they had many kids, a wife and a loving family, nobody's around them anymore. People distance themselves from this person because he overconsumed. He hurt himself. He destroyed himself. He didn't hurt others, but he did hurt himself by being gluttonous. And the last one that we're going to talk about is lust. And man, oh man, is lust horrible. This maybe affects men more than women. So this lust will be your downfall, right? When you are constantly looking over to another man's wife, or looking over to other women, or looking over to kind of want more, right, from the opposite sex, that can take you down a rabbit hole that is hard to come out of. That'll give people a way to manipulate you and control you. That'll give people a way to blackmail you. You're constantly looking over your shoulder out of fear. You were hoping that nobody will find that text message, nobody will find that video, nobody will find that recording. And this lust takes down empires. It takes down men of power. So many men of power you would see, whether it's in the sports industry or movies industry or producers, directors, business people, whoever it is, these men of power that can't be touched will come crumbling down based off of their lust. Their lust gets the best of them, right? So you don't want these 7 deadly sins to control you. The saying that I've always said, I've thought about this when I was younger, and I said, wow, this is amazing. If you can control your 7 deadly sins, then you control yourself. And if you can control yourself, you control everything around you. Life is 90% what happens to you and 10% how you react. So if you're able to, how can I say this? If you're able to control those desires, control these lustful things, these gluttonous things, these prideful things, all these 7 deadly sins, if you're able to control that, then nobody can trigger you, nobody can attack you, nobody can get into your circle and control the outcome of your life. But if you slip and let one of these sins come into your life, then what happens is you open a doorway for people to manipulate and control you, and then you're no longer in charge of your destiny or of your future, right? You have your life is in the palm of somebody else's hand, and they control you. And this will bring down many, many business people, not only entrepreneurs. It can bring down anybody from any field of life, right? Any field of work. So, like I always say, I say this to my own friends and my own family: control your 7 deadly sins. If you do, you control yourself. And if you can control yourself, you control those around you. Remember, life is 90% how you react. 10% what happens to you. I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong last time. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. So you want to make sure that whatever happens to you, it's not because you open the door for them to kind of attack you. You want to make sure that whatever happens to you, you're in full control. If there's nothing that they can do to exploit you, nothing that they can do to control you, then you're in 90% control, and then you can react accordingly and always stay on top and stay in power. I hope that helps. I know that we're in a society right now where it pushes people away from religion, it pushes people away from God, but, if you're a religious person, then kudos to you, right? Whatever your religion is, as long as you believe in a higher power, that's great. That means that you're conscious of a power greater than you, and that takes somebody without pride. For you to be able to acknowledge that, that means you have no pride, right? That you know that you're weak and somebody else is stronger than you, i.e. whether it be God or whoever you believe in. And this being, God, will guide you in the right way. And him, or whatever divinity you believe in, saying that these 7 deadly sins are deadly to you, there's a reason for that. And we see it constantly day in and day out, and yet we don't put 2 and 2 together. The biggest one that I've seen for a lot of successful people, especially through the media, is lust. Please control these 7 deadly sins. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that kind of puts a perspective on things for you guys if you are on the road to becoming a businessman or an entrepreneur, right? I want to make sure that you're off to a good start. Again, when I do these videos, it's more so, believe it or not, for me, because I feel if I can properly educate, properly explain, that means I've commanded the knowledge, right? I've commanded the information. I control it. I know it in and out. If I can explain it, therefore I know it and I'll never lose it. So not only am I doing these videos for you, I'm also doing it for myself. So everything that I say is constantly a reminder for myself first before I'm pushing information on other people. So again, this is a reminder to myself, and hopefully it's a reminder to all of you. Stay safe. Hopefully this helps.